All right, so here's our UC presentation. There are 9 undergraduate campuses and that students can apply to. And this presentation will be posted so that you'll be able to actually click all the links. These links all take you to UC sites. So it'll take you to the spots within the UC application site or within this presentation where you can get lots of information. So 80% of the UC system are California residents, and 38% are first generation. 27% are actually California community college transfer students. So if you or your student wants to transfer, then you might want to consider attending that session during session 3 to learn more about that process. And I can talk a little bit about it as well. And 33% of the students are Pell eligible, and that's a grant through the federal government. So there's a lot to consider when deciding which UC to go to. And we have a lot of students that apply to all of them or almost all of them, but you really want to look at which campus is right for you or your student. Think about the major that you want to study, the career that you want to have. Think about the size of the school. Some of the UCs are really, really big, and some of them are more manageable size. Think about the location. Do you want to be in the city? Do you want to stay nearby at Berkeley? Do you want to go far away to San Diego? And think about the opportunities that they have. So, UC Merced is a smaller campus. So for some students, that's what they're looking for. But it's also in Merced, which while Merced is a great city, it doesn't have the same type of internship opportunities maybe that the Bay Area has. So, those are the things to weigh and consider. And of course, UC Santa Barbara's by the beach, some students might want that. So just some more facts about the UC. Their undergrad enrollment for 2021, this past fall, was almost 300,000 students. So California residents are 75% of that. And for undergraduate students, so those are those first-time students getting their bachelor's, 34% Pell Grant and 39% first generation. And then you can see here the breakdown of the race, ethnicity, as well. And I do see there's questions, and I will get to those at the end. So there's a lot of support services and programs that students really should take advantage of when they go to college, whether it's UC or another system. So here are some links to some of the programs. I want to point out EOP, it's the Educational Opportunity Program, and that's available at every UC and every CSU. And it's a program that will provide mentorship and tutoring and a lot of other good support, even some money to help buy books. So for students who are low income or first generation, or who've overcome other challenges, that is a program that they should apply to when they apply to school. And then there's things like study abroad. There's also a UC in DC and a UC Center in Sacramento for students interested in government and inter-campus visitors. Students can actually take some classes at a different UC campus than their own. The cost. So the UCs cost more than the CSUs, but less than private schools. So if they're going to live on campus, the tuition and fees are going to be the same. So they're around $14,000. And then, in here, like I was talking in the main session about that cost of attendance where the books and supplies are estimates. These are all estimates, and books and supplies, that just depends on the student, maybe, and their major too. Science and math books cost more, unfortunately. And then room and board. So if they're living on campus, it's $16,500 average for the UCs. If they're living off campus, it's an average cost of $13,400. Now, if they end up going to Berkeley and living at home, then that will change. Also, 58% of students pay $0 in tuition. So that $14,000 gets covered for 58% of the students. 75% get some form of gift aid that they do not have to pay back. And 42% of the students have no debt when they leave UC system. So all students should be applying for financial aid senior year to see what kind of help they can get, whether you think you'll qualify or not. They are right now, the UCs have a tuition stability plan to really help so that the students who enter the UC in the next year or two, their tuition will remain flat for up to 6 years. So their tuition, they will have up to 6 years to finish their program without worry of their tuition increasing. The tuition may increase for new students coming in, but for students, once they enter, they're going to have that same tuition, so you know what to expect year 2, year 3, year 4. So before I get into admission, I'm going to just look real quick at the chat to see what questions there are. And let's see. That's about admission, so we'll get to that next. Yep. Community college. Yeah, so I'll talk about transfer in a minute. Cool. All right, so admissions. They do need to have a C- or better in all of the A through G required courses. And they need to then have at least a 3.0 GPA in their A through G GPA, which starts after 9th grade, and it's all their A through G courses. PE doesn't count, health doesn't count. 9th grade classes get looked at by admissions. So 9th grade still counts, but it doesn't get calculated into that GPA for that 3.0 or higher that is needed for UC eligibility. So a question in the chat about, so if a student earns a D in one of those A through G required courses, are they automatically out? Unfortunately, yes. However, throughout high school, there are ways for students to make those up. So if a student earns a D at some point, they can make that up. Now, there also is some validation with math classes and with world language classes. So if a student gets a D or F in a math or a language class like Spanish or French, but then they go on the next semester and get a C or better, or the next year and get a C or better, that validates it since the material builds on itself. But for other classes like that require those 4 years of required English, that means they need a C- or better every single English class. So if they don't meet that, then they're going to have to make that up. And we have ways for them to do that. So the selection with the UC is called comprehensive review. And the UC developed 14 factors for the campuses to use, including academic achievement, personal and school context, special talent, life challenges, special circumstances. So there is a link here that will go over in more detail, but the idea is that they're not just looking at numbers, they're looking at who the student is. So they're taking a lot of things into consideration. And then there's a note here, the UC system no longer uses SAT or ACT for admissions. So what they're looking at are those extracurricular factors. They want to see students taking on leadership roles. They want to see students maybe being consistent with a couple of extracurriculars, or maybe they're trying out different ones each year. That's okay, but they should be doing something outside of class. And that could be something informal too, such as taking care of their younger siblings at home. Responsibilities at home count as extracurriculars. Academic factors, of course, because they want to make sure the student will do well at the UC. And then they're going to look at contextual factors that the student has talked about in their application. They will be looking at those PIQs, the personal insight questions, which are 4 short answer essays. So they're 350 words maximum each, so they're short. And they should be on 4 different topics. And it's all about the content. The students don't need to write this big essay with flowy language. They really just need to write something that has content about themselves and that provides context for the people looking at the applications. The decile rank is not completely important, But there is something called ELC, eligibility in the local context. So if a student ends up being in the top 9% of California applicants or top 9% of our school, then they will be guaranteed admission at one of the UCs, not necessarily the ones they applied to. So at the end of junior year, the registrar submits the A through G GPAs to the UC system. And then when the students apply, their application will be reviewed to determine if they meet that ELC requirement, and the student will get will be able to log back into their application after they apply to see if they meet the ELC. So in terms of for that, it does help with the like looking at the decile. But other than that, I would not pay attention to the decile rank on a student's transcript, because especially right now, they're very skewed with COVID and how things were. So I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on there. And then contextual factors are, what a student had going on. So, whatever they talk about in their application, it may be challenges, it may be successes, it may be their family situation, it may be they switched schools. It really depends on the student. There's a lot of things that could be considered contextual factors. So these are just some trends. The UC receives applications from more than 110,000 California students each year, and that's over all the 9 campuses. The admission of the students did increase of California students 17% from 2019 to 2021, so that's really good. And the California resident enrollment grew. So that means the number of California students at the UCs grew, and the percent admitted. So the application's available August 1st of senior year for students to start working on the application. They can submit the application October 1st through November 30th. So August and September, they can go in, they can work on it and get it ready. October 1st through November 30th, they can hit that submit button whenever they're ready. And if they submit October 1st or November 30th, their application gets looked the same. When they get admitted, like the notification will be the same. So there's no benefit to doing it early. There is, however, a risk of waiting to the last minute that it crashes. So I really do not recommend waiting till the last minute. We have a lot of application help in the College and Career Center, so students really should be taking advantage of that. The application fee is $70 per campus. So it's one application for all 9 schools. However, there's a fee of $70 per campus. In the application, students will get to enter their household information, the income and the number of family members, and then the application will calculate if the student is eligible for a fee waiver. If they are, they get 4 campuses for free. I'm gonna take a pause here to go over some of the questions from the chat. Let's see. So community college and transfer is always an option. To learn more about it, attend session 3. But yes, even that'll be available if the student can wait until they find out if they got admitted or not. So for world language, you just need 2 years of the same language. So if you don't have room in your schedule or your student doesn't have room until their junior year, that's okay to start junior year, but they need to get at least to the 2nd year of the same, 2nd level of the same language. So French 2, German 2, Spanish 2, etc. If they go higher than that, AP, level 3, 4 AP, that meets the requirements. So also if a student starts junior year, but they start at a higher level, then that, will show that they're at a higher level. The other thing is that students can take the AP test in a language to meet the language requirement. So if a student speaks another language at home, they can take the AP test in that language to meet the requirement, and then they don't have to actually take the 2 years of the class. There's a question about statistics from applicants from our school that got admitted to their first choice. So we don't get data at that level. We do get to see the number of students attending a UC from our school and from our area. I don't have that on me at this moment, but I could definitely share that out. But again, it's not going to be necessarily, it won't tell me if it was their first choice. We also do a senior survey at the end of the year that will share where students self-report what school they're going to and what schools they got into. So we always list the schools that students got into overall, and every year we have students going to all of the 9 UC campuses. So, you know, and then the one thing to keep in mind is that the UCs do know what we offer. They know what honors classes and AP classes we offer. So students are not going to be penalized if they're not taking as many honors or AP classes as students at other schools where maybe there's more classes that are offered. We don't offer any to 9th graders. We offer hardly any, if any at all, to 10th graders. So, you know, whereas other schools may do that. And so the UCs know, and they're not going to penalize students because they're at our school and not at another school. The current GPA for admission by school and major is not always reported out, but the so you can go on to their site. Most of the schools will report their median GPA, so the middle 50%. So keep in mind that 25% will have lower GPA, 25% will have higher GPA. So most of them will have a list that on their website, and we try to post what we can on our site as well. Are you all able to hear me?
We can hear you, but are you sharing something?
So there's a question if seal of biliteracy is beneficial to an application. You typically won't know your seal of biliteracy status till the end of your senior year. If you happen to earn it sooner, then that's an honor or award that you can list on your application. It's not necessarily better or worse than having other honors and awards. We have about a minute left, so I just want to share that. Sorry, something in my eye. I just want to share again that you know, the UCs are competitive, but they have 9 different campuses, and so some are more competitive than others. But again, they are doing that comprehensive review where they are looking at more than just the GPA. They want to see students challenging themselves. If a student's getting all A's and they didn't take any honors classes, then why did they not challenge themselves with an honors class if they were able to get all A's in regular classes? That being said, don't overwhelm yourself and take all honors and AP classes, but find that right balance for you or your student. And then again, you know, we have tons of opportunities, internships, summer programs, extracurriculars, volunteering, whatever students do adds to their application. And we're going to wrap up here. If they had a B in an honors class, that's totally fine. They're going to be looking at their overall transcript and the overall grades they got in all the different classes. In terms of the GPA, honors and AP classes do give a grade bump, so a B gets calculated like an A into the GPA. Yeah, it's totally fine to get a B or C here and there. You know, they don't have to have all A's. I was just pointing out that if a student has all A's and they didn't take any honors or AP, the UCs are going to question that. So they want to see students challenging themselves. So if your student has the ability to take a harder class, they should try a harder class with an honors or an AP or a community college class. Letters of recommendation are not part of the UC application. So the only time that there are letters of recommendations for UCs is with UC Berkeley only if they request it. UC Berkeley reaches out to about 30 to 40% of applicants after they've applied and says, hey, you have the option to submit 2 letters of recommendation. And then students have that option to do so. We recommend they do if they get asked for it, because it can only add more information to their application to help. So we are out of time. I will be doing this session again during session 3 if you have more questions, but you can always reach out to me since I'm at the school and we have a lot of context available. So I recommend that you go back to the guide or go back to the main Zoom if you need help being redirected to find another session to attend for the next block of time.